this week we picked a movie that people actually have seen.
We?
I picked it.
Okay. Yes. Just want to make sure.
Except for one person, and Mr. Positivity Wolfie T. I'm reading that directly from your Twitter, so you can't accuse me of getting it wrong this time. How have you not seen this movie?
I have not seen this movie.
You have seen it now.
Well, now I've seen it. So does that mean that like I am all of a sudden better just because like
yes.
I've righted the wrong?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's still in the wrong on this, and he needs to adjust his ways.
I mean, but also like, could you be biased because you've seen every like football/sports movie?
I have not seen every football/sports movie. From this podcast episode, I've found 2 movies that I haven't seen that are added to the list.
Joy my life.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, so what movie was it again?
This movie is The Blind Side.
Okay, so I'm Shay.
I'm Tyler.
And this is cinematically correct. And okay, so we decided to pick a movie that we figured a lot of people had seen because the audience asks had shown us that a lot of people hadn't been seeing the movies that we've been doing. So we wanted to try to give you guys a chance to be part of it.
Feel a bit more engaged again.
Yeah. And, so we did get a few. I mean, we didn't get a lot of questions, but that's also because, we only have like 10 listeners. So, hi guys. But we got some. So that was the point.
We get more than 2.
I think we got 3. So
yes. So we're going to do all 3.
Joy. But yeah, so that was our purpose. So do you want to, before we get into the movie, do you want to tell us what beer you have?
Sure. I have Competitor IPA.
That is an interesting can.
Zealous Beer Company.
I don't think I've ever even heard of Zealous Beer Company.
Well, they're out of Medfield, Mass.
Oh, local.
There's not a whole lot of choices for football or sports-related beers.
Just because of the time of year. There will be closer to football season.
There's a goat football beer that's actually quite good.
You had to like it. You were obligated to like that
beer.
It
gets like 4 stars just for the can.
Yeah. All right, let's see what the crack is like.
So this is going to be an IPA and it's going to be terrible.
Solid crack.
All right. Yeah, that's pine tree.
Yeah, oh yeah. That smell is...
I'm going to give it a 3.
You went into this knowing you weren't going to like it,
yeah.
So...
I mean, that's probably a generous rating given that I knew I was going to not enjoy it. But yeah, 3 out of 5.
Well, I mean, okay. Well,
just better than half.
You did it for the pod, the things you do.
It's at least cold.
So there's that. All right. So do you want to tell us briefly what the movie is about?
Brief synopsis.
Certainly. So the movie is about a boy by the name of Michael Oher, who is quite gifted physically because he's enormous. He's a poor kid from Memphis, I believe, and he's picked up and adopted by a well-off family, and they get him into a private school, and he starts playing football, and he makes it to the NFL.
Yeah, sounds about
right.
That's it.
That's the movie.
And it's a true story. It's based on actual Michael Oher.
Yes.
NFL player Michael Oher.
Yes.
Okay, so before we get into like all the nitty gritties and all that kind of stuff, we should do the IMDb.
Okay.
What?
I mean, well, the first one has to be Sandra Bullock, right?
Sandra Bullock is Sandra Bullock, right? So that's all. That's basically what I knew about this movie. Was it a feel-good movie with Sandra Bullock? That was pretty much what and I knew football was involved. So, so Sandra Bullock plays Leanne Dewey. She is a interior designer, I believe.
Yes.
Devout Christian, from a well-off family, and I mean, she's kind of portrayed as someone who's not able to show her emotions, but is a headstrong, like go-getter type woman.
Yeah, she's gonna bend you to her will rather than do something she doesn't want to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, I enjoyed her character because I enjoy Sandra Bullock. I mean, I feel like our generation is almost obligated to enjoy Sandra Bullock, but I'm sure the podcast will attack me for that. But I just feel...
what movie have we done with Sandra Bullock for the podcast?
For the podcast?
Yes.
I mean, I know that I wanted to do The Vow, I think it was, because it was filmed near where I think your grandmother has a house.
The Proposal.
The Proposal, that's what it was.
We have not yet done The Proposal.
Okay. Oh, the one, the blindfolds.
Yes.
I can't remember the name of it, but
Bird Box.
Bird Box. Yeah.
There's another one.
There's another one.
Yep.
Okay, my brain can't do that.
While you were sleeping, coma.
Oh, right. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
Wow. But anyways, okay, so I can't ever complain about her acting.
Yeah. I mean, she's most well known for Miss Congeniality, Speed, and just if you don't know who she is, she's Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, just pick a movie and watch it. Okay, Tim McGraw plays Sean Dewey. We did another movie with because I actually picked that out in the movie and you didn't even notice. So boom.
I noticed after the fact.
Yes, that doesn't count. Friday Night Lights.
Yes.
But he plays the father. He's much nicer in this movie. So in Friday Night Lights, he's a jerk.
He's better than the alcoholic, abusive father from Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Like, that's a high bar.
Yeah. So he plays a guy who he's the amiable husband, right? He's the husband to the headstrong woman who is kind of just.
He's the go with the flow. Just yes, honey, whatever you want.
He's from what I read, and I might be wrong here, but I think he owned Taco Bell stores.
Yes, he's a franchisee owner. He was a big-time college athlete for Ole Miss playing basketball. He played a little bit of the NBA, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
He does the color commentary for the Memphis Grizzlies basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
And then he owns a bunch of franchises.
Yeah. Well, they had said that the quesadilla saved our ass, and apparently
Chalupa.
No, it's quesadillas. And it was apparently true because his store was like failing, and then the Taco Bell introduced the quesadillas, and then his profit started skyrocketing.
Yes, that's also in the book.
I'm just saying that it happened. Anyways, I enjoyed his character. I like Tim McGraw. I'm a country music fan anyways, so, there's that. Quentin Aaron plays Michael Oher. Now, I've never seen him before this movie. Have you?
No. And I've looked at his IMDb. I don't think I've seen anything that he's in.
It says Halfway, Mothers and Daughters, Locked in Love, Unsubscribe.
So there's another movie that's Greater, which is another football movie that I want to see. It's basically Rudy, but a different Rudy.
Great. So that's one of the two that's added to the list.
Yeah.
So he plays Michael Oher. I thought he did really well. I'm actually surprised that before this he was a security guard and not an actor. But he did really well. He plays a kid who really had just a bad upbringing. He had parents who were unfortunately drug addicts, and he bounced around from foster home to foster home and really didn't get great education. He didn't have a lot of parental guidance, so he really wasn't even going to school. He said he wasn't even showing up very often. And so he finally was able to get enrolled in this Catholic school because a friend of his who was sleeping on his couch got enrolled, and he just, he ended up excelling once he was able to be taught. What I thought they did really good with that. I thought they did really good showing him as like a really kind soul and kind of showing him growing into, the amazing NFL player he ended up being. Obviously the real Michael Oher has thoughts about this whole thing, and we will talk about that, but I thought the actor did a really good job portraying what he was meant to portray.
I did as well. So I mean, it's very clear that they were going for the gentle giant with a heart of gold.
Yes.
For Michael Oher, and he nailed that. Like, bravo, great job.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're kind of born into security work if you're 6'6" and 300 pounds. Like, you're a wall of a person.
Yeah, I mean, surprising you're not a bouncer, to be honest, but okay, so Jay Head plays S.J. Toohey, another actor I'd never seen before. He was a young kid, and the whole movie I was just like, this is the most adorable kid ever. Like, I know they did that purposely to just make you have someone to connect with, but again, I haven't seen him. He is in Hancock. There was Law and Order. Apparently he was in How I Met Your Mother, Homeless Henry, Yellowstone, Hell Girl.
I've seen Hancock.
I believe I've seen Hancock as well. I've obviously also seen How I Met Your Mother, but I'm not connecting him to it at all. But again, he played the younger son of the Tooheys. He was kind of the one that Michael connected with and was not really learning from, but like growing with, I guess I would say. It was just a really adorable connection.
That's a big brother little brother type relationship. It was adorable.
Yeah, it was.
And much nicer than real life brothers. Like, I used to fight with my brothers all the time. Just, no.
He might be just a better person than you.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the last person that I want to mention before I do my, connection, obviously, would be Lily Collins, because she's Phil Collins' daughter, first of all. And plays Collins Dewey, which is the older sibling of the Deweys. She was a cheerleader. She is kind of the one who connects with him in school. She studies with him, and she kind of helps him find his footing in school. Sounds like that happened in real life as well, from what I read.
She rearranged her schedule. A straight A student, she changed up her schedule and I think took fewer AP courses to try to help him in real life. Ironically, her last name is Collins, and she played Collins.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. I haven't seen her in other things, but I did check her IMDb. It says she was in Love, Rosie, Mirror, Mirror, Abduction, Calls, Mank, none of which I've heard of.
No.
So, but I mean, I liked her. I wish they gave us more scenes with her, because I feel like at the beginning, they made her seem like, a snobby cheerleader that you weren't going to like. And then there was like a switch flipped, and all of a sudden she's a good character and you want to like her, but they don't give you any scenes with her to like prove that.
You don't get any more depth. She was very much as an ancillary.
Yeah. But I kind of wanted to see that. I wanted to see them connect. Like I wanted to see that, but not there.
I mean, how can you, before you skip on, how can you forget the great Kathy Bates?
Okay, we can mention Kathy Bates. I mean, Kathy Bates is Kathy Bates. We've done many movies with her. Fried Green Tomatoes is the first one that pops into my head, but
The Highwaymen.
Yeah, she's Kathy Bates. She's not a huge part in this movie. She plays a tutor. She's only in like the last half. But she's Kathy Bates. So
I really only have to mention her because she's my Lord of the Rings reference.
Okay, I knew there was a reason. Go ahead.
So she was in The Golden Compass as a voice actor with Ian McKellen, who is Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. How
often have you used The Golden Compass as your reference point?
Like 5 times.
Okay. Just wondering. Just curious.
Well, there's 2 different Golden Compasses now. There's the TV
show and the movie.
The movie.
You've made me watch a show, right? So I'm like very well aware.
Well, the movie's terrible. Like with the exception of Ian McKellen as the voice of the armored bear, terrible movie.
At least it's not on the list.
And I think Sam Elliott is also the cowboy, which would have been a way better choice.
Okay, and then I will mention my reference, which was Tom Nowicki, who plays literature teacher, who was not a nice man in this movie at all.
Totally.
Yeah, he was in One Tree Hill with Chad Michael Murray, who plays Tristan in Gilmore Girls. Boom. Did that.
All right.
Okay, so getting into the movie. So I mentioned this before, and I wrote it down as we needed to have this discussion. So why is it called The Blind Side?
Because quarterbacks are right-handed and they turn their back on the left side to throw the football.
Right, but it's a movie, right? So like it has more of a meaning. Like it's not just.
No, it's just that's the reason.
Are you sure?
That's the reason he titled the book the way he titled the book.
How do you know that? Did you like talk to him? Did you guys have a conversation?
No, the book is about the economics of football over time and why the game of football has changed and the dynamics of the left tackle being the second highest paid person on the football team.
Okay, so like if that's true, then shouldn't the movie have done a better job with like a title that captured the movie they were actually doing rather than the book?
I mean, so the book has more of a focus on the history of football development as well as the story of Michael Oher. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a 2 stories melded to one. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just where they got the title, is they took it from the book. Okay,
well, so apparently Google was not as interested in that. Like, people didn't really care. I care. I still care. But Answers.com, don't you worry, Answers.com always comes through. And it said from some random Joe Schmo, because so you know that it's real. Like, it's obviously the right answer.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally a legitimate
source.
obviously.
Like,
that's better than Wikipedia.
Yeah, I mean, I thought so. So I figured, It says, it was called The Blind Side because it was about coming over your blind side and never giving up on anything.
No. It was...
So I got rickrolled by the answers, but it's fine. Like, because it's never going to give me up. It's never going to let me down. So.
No, it's quarterbacks are right-handed. Majority of them.
Movie titles are double entendres. They need to be,
No.
Or they need to be specifically what the movie is about. But you can't have a movie title that has literally nothing to do with what the story is.
Sandra Bullock, Bird Box. What is Bird Box about blindness?
Frankly, I don't remember because it's
Right.
been that long. But I am upset about this. If it's not about overcoming something or like, seeing your blind spots in your life or something, like if it's not about that, I'm mad. Okay. Like I just wanted to let you know.
It's just about football. You
No.
have to let it go.
No. I'm not okay with this. And I just wanted to make that like abundantly clear. Okay, cool.
It's just a football thing.
But
You gotta
since
let it
you brought up that it is a reference to the book, and I have not read the book, I'm curious how it compares.
So the book, I actually read in college for economics because the full title is The Blind Side, The Economics of Football, I believe.
Okay.
So they go into...
Did you get to choose that, or did your teacher actually assign that to you?
My teacher assigned that, actually.
Wow, you must have been like, yes, it's my favorite day.
Well, they also assigned me Moneyball by the same author, which goes into a little bit of game theory.
Okay.
How you evaluate things. Regardless, not the point. So it's a lot of the book is focused on, well, the quarterback is the most important person on the football field because they get to make all of the decisions. So they throw the ball, they hand off the ball, they do everything. So if they die on the field, you're screwed. And we've seen that on our team because we've had Tom Brady for a long time and been very good. And we have no more Tom Brady, we're not as good.
Shocker.
So, because of that, a lot of teams started trying to find a way to disrupt the quarterback. So they started looking for big, angry people to smack the bejesus out of the quarterback. And it culminated with Lawrence Taylor, who is probably one of the greatest defensive players in the history of in football. I would say arguably the best defensive player, who just was unstoppable and unblockable. There are stories about quarterbacks taking a timeout to find out where he was. He was on the sideline getting water, and they didn't see him, so that nope, not playing that game. Trying again. So because they were becoming harder to block, football teams started looking for big people to get in the way, and that's where the left tackle comes from.
Gotcha. So that told me how it compares to the movie. How?
Well,
I'm confused.
So they left that whole part of it out. So there's not really anything other than the first like 30 seconds of the movie. She does a brief explanation of that, and then the rest of the movie is just the story of Michael Oher, which is also in the book. But I think they were so gripped by the human interest story and the dynamic there that they wanted to do the focus there.
Now, at least the story part, is the story part pretty similar? Like, is it?
It is. It's a very similar. They saw him because he was enrolled there, and they felt bad for him because he had nowhere to go, so they took him in, and then.
But the story part is pretty much directly from the book.
Basically, it's, to my understanding, exactly what happened.
Okay, so is that everything with the book?
That's basically everything I got. Yeah.
Okay, well, since you said it's basically what really happened, we should probably talk about real life versus movie.
Sure.
We generally do this with every true story. And this one was a little bit more tough for me. Normally these movies have like articles where it says like the real life, the real story, or whatever. And some of it does, but it's really focused on like a few quotes from Michael Oher and they seem to like make that mean like a whole lot of things, right? So I did kind of look into it. It looks like for the most part, a lot of the story is exactly as it happened. He did have drug addict parents. He was jumping from foster home to foster home. He was staying on someone's couch. It seemed like it was a coach of some sort, whose couch he was staying on, in real life. And in real life, he actually ended up with the Chewies, because the father actually noticed him. I guess, I don't know if the father somehow was involved in the school or what it was, but he said he noticed him around the gymnasium and that's how he ended up getting in with the family. It wasn't actually the young boy like they showed in the movie.
It wasn't Mrs. Dewey, Leanne.
Well, they kind of showed in the movie that it was more the young kid's friendship with him that kind of
won her over?
Yeah. And that's not really what happened. But the main thing that if you guys have heard anything about this movie and you know anything about why people don't like the movie, the main thing that they say is the problem is the story showing him as almost dumb when he got started, and then also that he didn't know football, none of which was true. Right. So I could be misquoting a little bit of this because I don't have it specifically written down, but he was stating that when he went to the Tuies, his IQ was around in the 80s, and then it improved up to the 100s very quickly. And the reason for that was because he didn't have any schooling, and he wasn't
had no
going
education
to,
because the public education system had completely and utterly failed.
Well, it wasn't just that, he also wasn't going to school because the foster families weren't paying attention to him. He didn't have parental guidance. So he wasn't dumb. He had no education. So there's a difference, and they did kind of make it seem like he was struggling to learn and he was a mute and like all these things, which just wasn't true. That just wasn't the case. And then the other thing was that they were making it seem like he didn't know anything about football and the Tuies had to teach him, which was not true at all. He had been studying football for a long time, and actually before he even met the Tuies, he was doing basketball and track, I think he said along with football, at that school. So none of that was true. He didn't actually need to be trained by them or taught by them. He spent a lot of his time devoted to the sport. So that was kind of insulting to him to make it seem like they had to do that.
I can understand that, but at the same time, it's a movie and they needed a little bit of drama. If he just was just so good at football, it's less of a heartfelt story. Like no one's gonna want to root for the guy that is just very good at everything. Like,
well, I mean, I think it's still a great story to show that somebody went outside of themselves and decided to help another human that they knew nothing about. Like, they didn't know them from a hole in the wall, and they decided to take them in and help them grow and succeed into the person that they were. I think that's still a feel-good story, regardless
it's a hugely feel-good story, and the world would be a much better place if people would look after their neighbors and even strangers.
Right. So, anyways, it seems like a lot of the things happened, but the way that they were portrayed was not
I think he also had a problem that he was not a quiet, understated person. He was very social and friendly.
I didn't read that one, but
so he didn't like that part of the portrayal as a just quiet, understated person who was always talking to people and friends with everybody in school. And
yeah. So anyways, it's one of those true stories where it was close to what happened, but the way that they chose to portray it, a lot of people have issue with, including him. So I did want to mention, though, since we're talking about real life, first of all, he did have an issue with the movie while he was in the NFL. He stated that, his position, that he was in, people don't generally pay attention to that position in football. But because he was who he was, people were paying attention to him because of the movie, and he felt that it was hurting him in the NFL. It was hurting his career. Now, people take issue with that. People say that he just wasn't that good of a player. I know nothing about him as a player. I only know Patriots, so I got nothing.
Well, so that is not an entirely unfair thing for him to think, because it's a long-standing joke among people that have played on the offensive line that the only time you get noticed is if you screw up. So if no one says your name or notices you at all, you had a great game. If people are screaming at you, you did something wrong. You done messed up.
Right.
So I think that's entirely fair. So he was under a much higher level of scrutiny because people knew who he was, so they were watching him play.
Now, do you think he was a good player? Do you know anything about him?
He's fine. When he started in the NFL, he was drafted by the Ravens, and he had insane shoes to fill. He was replacing a Hall of Fame left tackle, Jonathan Ogden, who was another monster of a human being. He's like 6'9", 300 pounds, like a huge person with just freakish capabilities. And so it's just, you're not going to live up to that as a rookie. Like, it's unfair.
Right.
It's like somebody stepping into Tom Brady's shoes. It's not fair. Yeah,
well, Cam Newton has definitely not done that, so.
Well, it's just not a fair comparison. Like, there's no living up to that.
Right.
So, I think that also hurt him.
Yeah. But, so he's been out of the NFL. He was in the NFL. We've been toggling between 8 and 9 years, but he was in the NFL for around that time. And after the fact, he came out and he did some really great things for his community. And I wanted to mention it because I just feel like I wish more people did stuff like this. This is obviously a good human. So he created an organization called Beat the Odds Inc., which is dedicated to helping kids from hard places achieve their dreams. He also wrote a book of a similar name that kind of tells his story and tells like how he got to where he got and all that kind of stuff. And then recently he created an app called the Good Deeds app, which allows neighbors to connect to others in their community to give material items like clothes, shoes, and more. So he said that he was like remembering when he didn't have that type of stuff and when he only had one pair of shoes or whatever, and he just needed something, but he had no resource. He had nowhere to go to look for it, and he wished that there were more people out there that would help. And so he decided to make that a thing, and I just think that's amazing. I think it's amazing that he took that experience and is now helping others. Like that. Why aren't more people like this? Why?
I don't know. The world would be a much better place if you just be the change you want to see in the world.
Right.
Just be a good person and be nice to people. It's not hard.
Okay, so moving on from the real life versus movie, character development. So we kind of harp on this a lot in movies, although we haven't in a long time, mostly because there hasn't really been any in any of the movies we've done. But that is like one of the top things for me of if I'm going to like a movie, there has to be character development.
I think I'm there with you. I'm not to the same extreme that you are for character development. Sometimes you just want to shut your brain off and you don't need it. But it has been very lacking in a lot of the movies we've done recently, especially the Devil Down Below.
Yeah.
So bad.
There was none. There was none,
and I just wish that everyone died to the monsters and the world ended. Like that would have been a better ending.
Yeah. Now it's hard in movies that are true stories because it's one of those things where they show the character development that happened in real life, but they oftentimes exaggerate it, which I feel like they did in this movie as well. And then that makes me kind of question everything because I like a lot of character development. I like to see that. I like to see the beginning where you're, struggling and then you become this amazing thing. And like, I love seeing that, but knowing that the real life person didn't like the way it was portrayed and knowing that it was so exaggerated that it made them feel unhappy with who they looked like on screen, that I don't know. So I have this like conflict of me because I really liked it when I saw it, but knowing what I know now.
I mean, you have to take it for what it is. It's creative license, and it's part of movies where the director chose to go a specific direction with it, and the actors chose to go a specific direction with it, and they made the movie that they made. I mean, I don't think you can fault them for how it was written. Maybe they could have incorporated a little bit more of his personality into the role and still had the same kind of character development and seeing vested interest in seeing him succeed and seeing the family come together. But that's not what grabbed me about this movie. This movie is very much about the people in this movie.
Yes, it definitely is. I mean, watching the movie, I was rooting for him the whole time, and I loved seeing each step of the way, like how it seemed like he was getting on with his family and just how he was achieving his goals, and like it's that whole watching someone do all of the things they set out to do, and it just like makes you feel good, just it's one of those feel good things. And
where are you going, Mike? I was putting him on the bus. It's time for him to go home.
Yeah, you cheer for all of that, and. Or the car accident that happened where he
stops an airbag. Right.
And now I couldn't find if that was real or not real. I couldn't find that on Google.
That is also in the book, and it is mentioned that is a true story.
Well, true or not true, right? In the movie, it made it like it just like my heart just like filled up, like the fact that he had the forethought to do that. And that's not to say that, you think he's stupid or anything because of the way he's portrayed. I don't know that I would be able to do that in that moment. Your natural instinct is to protect yourself. So to think that someone could do that, it's just like, it makes you think what an amazing person that is. And it just, you root for them even more. And that just helped the character development, you know? But I don't know. I struggle with the idea that he didn't like it. So is the character development good if the person who's it's portraying doesn't enjoy it?
I would say yes, even though it's not accurate, it's still good character development for the character in the movie.
So then maybe they should have made it based on a true story and made it different names so it didn't reflect on him specifically.
I mean, I can see that, but it's very clearly this story. If it wasn't a true story, you wouldn't believe it. Like, come on, they're not gonna just put him in a Division I program, and they're not gonna. He's not gonna graduate because like there's so many different things along the way where you're like, and of course it works out, and it works out again,
right?
And it worked. He's in the NFL now. Of course he did.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's just I don't know. It bugs me a little bit. Okay, so a complaint that people have about this movie is Sandra Bullock's character. So we mentioned earlier that we're Sandra Bullock fans. We enjoy her acting, and I think that's just nostalgia and all of that. But what people were claiming is that her character was obnoxious, that her portrayal was over the top, and that nobody would be able to stay married to somebody like that. So I wanted to see your opinion on that because, I mean...
This feels like a trap.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Because you're...
Tread carefully.
Oh, God.
Because I'm what? Go ahead.
I would say that
we would like
Sandra Bullock is one of a handful of actresses that could pull this off and have me not want to smother them with a pillow. Mm-hmm. It takes a very easygoing person to deal with that kind of strong-willed woman.
But because I mean, earlier when you started talking about this, you said "cause you're," and I was just curious where that was going.
You're very much also a very strong-willed, independent.
And it takes an easygoing person to deal with that.
It takes a good balance there.
I'm just curious, you know. Yeah. I'm just listening and retaining.
No, I mean, I hate all of her friends. Her friends suck.
Well, she seems to hate her friends as well.
Yeah, I don't know why they're friends.
See, now, so I'll give my opinion, right? So okay. I didn't find her that obnoxious. I understood that she was, you know, kind of the type that was going to do what she wanted to do and get what she wanted. But I didn't find her to be, like, overwhelming or any of that type of stuff. I mean, they showed that she wasn't able to show emotion, which seemed pretty fitting for that type of person. Generally, people that are that strong-willed, they do have some kind of, you know,
defense mechanisms, yeah. Walls built up.
Right. I mean, that it's just kind of what people do. And so, like, I related to that. I totally understand the whole need to try to hide it, keep it back so that you can keep going and keep persevering. And I related to her. I thought she was similar to what I would want to be. I mean, I'm not there yet. I wouldn't be able to walk up to a coach and be like, excuse me, do what I say. Like, I would love to be that human, but I couldn't.
I totally 100% fear to be that dad at like the Little League or the Pee Wee football. What are you doing? You're an idiot. Get my son in the game.
Sticks and stones, Mom.
I totally can see myself doing that. And
yeah, but I didn't think they made her obnoxious. I think that, yeah, maybe they did a little bit more to make it funny and that type of stuff. But I mean, I think she's a relatable woman who was, you know, doing things on her own. And, you know, that comes with a little bit of strong will.
She's going to get it done and everyone else is going to have to deal with it.
Yeah. And I mean, it made sense for what she was doing. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I didn't find it obnoxious, but Reddit was not about it. So,
Reddit is totally an unbiased and unique viewpoint that is composed of everyone. It's not just a bunch of creepy weirdos on the internet. I
mean, I was looking on the internet, so like really my choices were creepy weirdos on the internet from what pool did I want to choose? You know what I'm saying? So a question that you actually posed prior to this podcast, I figured would be better to discuss on the podcast was, does this actually count as a football movie?
So that's an interesting question. I mean,
it's an interesting question that you came up with.
It does, but it doesn't. Because it's not really, the central focus of this movie to me is not really the football side of it. It's more the family and the interactions that they have and the doing the nice thing and helping someone out.
I mean, so it was like Friday Night Lights. I mean, there's a lot more.
I mean, that's more football than this. We saw a very limited actual football in this movie.
I mean, yeah.
It was more the
But this person's actually went to the NFL, where some of the others, like Rudy or whatever, did not. So.
But that's still even more football related because there's more football being played.
Yeah, because I think with those movies, the story being told is about football, playing football in the game, where this one is about the story of how he was able to get there.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like it still counts as a football movie because if the football wasn't there, I mean, would there be a story? I mean, I feel like yes, but it would be drastically different.
They still would have likely taken him in, and his life would
obviously. They didn't know he was a football player when they picked him up. Well, okay, he found him in a gymnasium, so maybe they did. But
even then, that's not what they're not going. Well, he's going to be good at football. Let's adopt him.
Because if that's the case, then the people who were screening, worrying about the fact that they did that to get him into the school,
NCAA, don't even get me started.
They would have been right if that was the case. So
I have my own problems with the NCAA, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, no, different time. But yeah, I mean, I think it does count as a football movie, but it's definitely much more of a human interest story.
See, I would say that it's bordering human interest movie with football. More so than a football movie, but it's right.
This comes down to like, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Like it's this type of thing. Like
you're splitting hairs and you're just being difficult to be difficult.
Which is your life. So
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I just wanted to close this part of the podcast out with the idea of like, could you do the same? So if you saw a random,
could I play in the NFL? No.
No. Well, we know this. You're not in it. But if you saw like a random human, boy, girl, doesn't matter, and you knew nothing about them, could you take them in, help them, do all those type of things the way that they did?
I mean, I would like to think so. They clearly have means, so not the way that they do, clearly. Because they got money.
Yes, they do. They got money, and they got space, and they got all the resources to give them everything they needed.
It frees you up to be a better person if you have that kind of money.
I mean, it should.
I mean, you can go the Bill Gates route. You can go the Jeff Bezos route.
Choose your own adventure.
2 ways to go. I would like to think that I'd be more Bill Gates than Jeff Bezos, but who knows?
Right. I
mean, I did let a stranger into my apartment a few years ago at 3 a.m. because they needed an outlet to charge their phone.
Yeah, to this day, I'll never understand the whole situation, but yes. So you're saying yes, you would be able to. I would say yes,
I would do that.
I want to say yes. I want to believe that I would be that type of person, and I pray that I would be. But I do question. I mean, I'm a worrier, right? I'm the girl.
You're an over-analyzing worrier.
Right.
So
I'm the girl who will lock my doors if I'm, sitting in a car waiting for you in a store because somebody walked by the car. Like I worry about literal everything, and I would analyze every angle, and I would also analyze, well, okay, I'm not rich, right? We barely make ends meet as it is, and would I be giving them a great home, or would me taking them in take them away from an opportunity to be at a better home,
Mm-hmm.
And like all of those things would go through my mind, and like, would that stop me, So the movie made me question, like, am I a good person?
If you had their money, would you be more likely to do it?
If I had their money, yes, I'd be way more likely to do it, but I don't think the worry would go away. I don't think are all humans good humans? I mean, he was a good human, but are all humans good humans? And would every kid be a kid that should be taken in? I don't know. I don't know that answer. So,
all children should be taken in and cared for, but some children that are nearly adults are very violent.
Well, he was like 17, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was almost an adult.
Yeah, so I mean, she had 2
an
children at home.
Enormous person.
Well, I mean, she had 2 children at home. Now, granted, he was a great person, so that was awesome. But it didn't necessarily have to go that way. And I feel like,
given his childhood, he had every reason to be angry with the world and be a violent person.
Right. So, I mean, I want to believe I could do that despite it all, but I know I'm a worrier, and I don't know if that would win out in the end. I don't know. So that makes me, I had a whole like existential crisis after this, wondering if I'm a bad person. So who knows? Okay. So do you have a history minute?
Tyler's History Minute.
So I have a few, and there's going to be a repeat as well.
Oh
unfortunately.
no, why is there a repeat?
Because it was mentioned very significantly in the movie.
So you had to do it. Well, at least reference what podcast you originally stated it in, please.
I don't
Thank
remember
you.
which podcast.
Well,
honestly.
can you try?
I will try.
Okay.
I'm not going to remember. So because this is a movie about football, I wanted to start off with a little bit of history of football.
Oh boy. Okay.
So football is a very different game than when it started. It was very much more like rugby originally, with no padding, and there was no forward pass, and there's no line of scrimmage. It was very violent, and people died. Lots of people died, and there was, at one point, Teddy Roosevelt, the president, was going to ban the sport nationally if the rules didn't change and make it safer. So Walter Camp stepped in the 1800s, and he's considered the father of modern American football. So he came up with a lot of different changes to the game. He invented the line of scrimmage. He invented the downs and distance. He invented the forward pass, which freed people up to not run headfirst into other people's faces so they wouldn't die. And this movie deals a lot with the evolution much later in football related to the defensive ends and the outside linebackers that would attack the quarterback. So in the book, they talk about teams having to figure out how to stop that. And I believe it was the Dallas Cowboys had an offensive lineman that was a cowboy in the offseason. And he, for training, would go out into a freshly plowed field after it had rained and flip tractor tires. And because of that, he had very good balance and he had very good footwork. And so they found that he was very good at getting in the way. So they put him there to get in the way, and they had a whole lot of success at that. And then, so the last thing, which is not related to football at all, is going to be the charge of the Light Brigade.
Is this the repeat?
This is the repeat, yes. And I don't remember which podcast. So it's the final project that he needs to do. He has to pick a piece of literature, and all the ones other than that, Pygmalion, Tale of Two Cities, etc., were all about.
Oh, this is the one where Tim McGraw's character makes it about football.
Onward.
Yeah.
The Alfred Lloyd Tennyson poem about a real thing. So the Charge of the Light Brigade took place in the Crimean War. It was the Battle of the Balaclava.
Not baklava.
No, Balaclava. Which was 1854. It was a tremendous blunder by the British. They were supposed to go prevent the Russians from taking over an abandoned fortification with artillery. Instead, they did a full frontal assault on an already placed artillery that the Russians controlled, and they got shot up a lot. But it's Onward. It's a really moving poem. I don't have it
Memorized?
No.
Damn. We really needed you to recite it.
The whole thing. That's all I got for the history minute.
What are you going to do for the next football movie? You're going to be scrambling. Why would you do this to yourself? Okay, so audience ask.
Audience asks.
So let's see what you guys did to us. You know, the questions actually came pretty quickly after I posted it, so you guys were ready to destroy us, I suppose. Okay, so I mean it's technically only two because people were discussing one of them. Okay, so Did You Blanket asked, the very popular book, White Fragility, uses The Blind Side as an example of a book that is racially problematic for portraying the white savior as a hero. Is this an unfair judgment on this feel-good movie?
I would say yes, given that it's a true story. So if it was a fictionalized retelling of something, or just a fictional story, then yes, it's very problematic. Because it's a true story, they're portraying the people as they were and as they are, which... reality is reality. Good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah, so that was how I felt when I first read this question and they hadn't done any research. I'm struggling with it now because now that I know that, Michael Oher was upset with how he was portrayed and how, they didn't actually help him learn football. Like, none of that is true. They did very much push they were saving him. And while in some forms they did save him. I mean, they took him off the streets and they helped him. They clothed him. They got him, his grades up. They got him a tutor.
Well,
that kind of stuff.
That was a big part of his trajectories. If he couldn't get his grades up, then he's not going to be able to play football at the next
Well,
level.
right. But they did push the narrative a little bit further than they needed to. Now, is it the white savior narrative? It's so hard because the races are the races of the people. We can't change that. But it becomes like a questionable, like, did they push it to make it look, like that? I don't know. But I mean,
I would just argue that it shouldn't matter the race at all. Good people are good people, and if we need more people doing the right thing, not less, or not people getting criticized for doing the right thing. We need people to step up and be good.
Right. I just wish they didn't make him look dumb. That's my biggest struggle there. Like, if they didn't do that, then maybe I wouldn't see validity in this argument. But that's a tough one for me. But that's all I got on that one. Okay. And they're actually a new person commenting, so thank you for commenting. Rev Johnny Blumpkin said, was the scene where Michael gets mad at the crack house and ends up knocking over that baby's crib a bit much? Like, I get they want to show he's a man-child with incredible strength, but that baby goes flying, and I about shit myself at laughing at how over the top it was.
Well, it's one of those things where you don't understand that kind of size and strength because it's so ridiculous. Like, there's that video of the police officer tasing a guy that plays Division I football, and the guy just, like, he's drunk, and he just takes the taser out and just keeps going. Like, that's it. Some of those things are ridiculous.
Right. So
it is warranted to give perspective. I mean, for example, the guy that he replaced on the Baltimore Ravens, Jonathan Ogden, there's a story about him running in the NFL, playing in a football game. The quarterback throws an interception. He runs to catch up to the guy that is less weight than him by like 150, 200 pounds, and almost catches him. And while mid-sprint, picks up another of the other guy's teammates and throws him at the guy.
Jesus.
To try to knock him out of bounds. That should not be a thing that is possible. But it is possible for some people.
So you just think that it's that over the top because those type of things happen. And
well, it's just it's people can forget that he is so big and so very strong.
Right.
Like, that just,
I think it was also meant, so they did over push the narrative of his protective instincts, as they kept saying. And I think that scene was also meant to show that, where he was having a moment where his emotions got the better of him, but then when he saw a child getting hurt, it reminded him of the times that he, had been in bad situations with his foster families or with his parents, and it brought that protective instinct of, like, he wanted to protect that child. He didn't want to hurt that child. And so I feel like it was a little over the top, but I feel like it was also kind of like a trigger for him. So it kind of needed to be something dramatic to jolt him. So I don't know. I felt like it was one of those creative license things that they had to do to jolt him. I did not read that was a true story, that actually happened. So, okay. And final question. So there is 3. Flix X-Rayed said, what do you think about how loosely it is based on the true story? Also, by the way, this movie makes me cry every time.
I mean, it is loosely, but also well adapted. Like, so the story of what happened is accurate, but the characters and how they are is changed for creative license.
Right. So does that bother you? I mean, we've said in previous movies that when things are changed for true stories, that bothers us.
It does. I mean, so I really love this movie. It's a near and dear to my heart movie. But it does kind of take away that he doesn't like this movie. He doesn't like how he was portrayed in this movie. So it's a weird. I would say overall, I still have a positive view of the movie, but it does take away a little bit.
Yeah, I think if I could change anything, it would be that he had kind of like almost like a mentorship role with the actor who was playing him to kind of tell him, how to be and how he was and like how he was feeling in certain times. Like I feel like that would have made this movie like 10 times better to make it more authentic and about him rather than just what Hollywood wanted it to be. But beyond that, I mean, I'm still gonna like the movie because it's just it just makes you feel good on the inside.
And it goes right for your feels. This whole movie just hammers you in feels.
It definitely does. All right, so do we have reviews?
Reviews.
We do. So Rotten Tomatoes film critic score, 66.
I mean, it's way better than last week.
It's better than 0.
Yes, it's better than 0.
It's actually better than 0. Still way lower than I expected for the critic score.
Yeah, well, did you see any reasons? Did you scroll them?
I didn't. I mean, she won the Academy Award for this movie for her acting performance.
She won the Oscar, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I saw that she was nominated for a few, but I wasn't sure which one she won.
So, I mean, the acting was top notch. I mean, the story is compelling. I don't know where they're falling off on that.
You should have scrolled it. They usually say.
The regular audience score is 85, so much more.
Right. People felt good about it. So, yeah, they're going to give positive reviews. So what do you give it?
Well, do you want to go first? Because I usually take your thunder.
Sure. I was going to give it an 8. So I really liked it. I liked the character development. It made me feel really good on the inside. But obviously the fact that the actual real person doesn't like it is going to take away from it for me. And I also, like, little things bothered me. Like, for example, his friend that he joined the school with. Like, where did he go? I saw that there was a deleted scene where it said that his friend's father's girlfriend, I think, stated that she no longer wanted him to come to the house anymore, and so that's why he wasn't there, but doesn't explain why he disappeared from the school, like, altogether, and they never speak of him again, like he didn't exist. Like, little things like that, like, just kind of made me like, what's going on? And as I said before about Collins, like, she was a snobby cheerleader who turned nice girl, but they don't give you anything about her. Like, those little things kind of did irk me a bit, so it took off a little bit of point.
I'm going to say 8.5, 9.
Oh. We're pushing into the Tyler really wants to keep watching this movie over and over again category.
I do like this movie. This is a movie that I can watch over and over again. So it does have that factor to it. It's not The Devil Down Below, but we're never watching that again. It's not Big Trouble in Little China.
We're never going to let that movie go.
No, it's garbage. It is garbage, and it needs to be reminded of that people need to be reminded that it is absolute trash. But no, I really love this movie. It's one of my top football movies. It's up there with Remember the Titans, Friday Night Lights,
Rudy.
So it just
makes you feel good.
It brings back the nostalgia from when I played football. I love football, and I wish I could play more football.
Getting old.
I really just want to be able to hit people in the face.
All right. Anything else you got there?
I think that's everything.
Okay, so for next week's movie. So here's the thing, guys. So we said that we were going to do...
I chose a movie that people would see.
Yeah, and we said we were going to keep going with that. And we are. We're going to do more that you guys have seen. However, this is what happened. So I'm just going to tell you. We went to a thrift store and we found an out-of-print DVD that had a bunch of really well-known stars. I think Julia Roberts might be in it. It's a Woody Allen musical. It's called Everyone Says I Love You. And I've never heard of it. It's super obscure, but there's a bunch of people that we know in it, and there's no other way to see it other than this DVD because it's out of print. Otherwise, we would have to buy it on eBay or something like that. So because we have it, and we might not have it for very long, I wanted to get that on the list and make sure we watch it. So that is going to be the next movie. The struggle with this is no audience asks because no one's going to have seen this. I'm still going to post it and see if y'all have, but you also can't watch it with us unless you happen to own the DVD. So that kind of stinks.
You're basically holding them hostage to go to your eBay store and buy the copy.
I do have a copy if y'all want to buy it. But mostly I want you guys to come and hear about a movie you may have never heard before. Like, there's big actors, I promise you that. So if you want to hear of a really obscure movie that has all of your favorite actors in it, come back next week because this is going to be interesting for us. But yeah, promise you after this, we will be doing more that you've seen, but I couldn't pass it up. So that is that. If you want to reach out to us outside the podcast, I am on Twitter at CinematicallyC. Tyler is on Twitter, blame Tyler CC. And I'm getting faces over here. And you can email me, cinematicallycorrect@gmail.com. You can find us basically anywhere that you type in cinematically correct.
Twitter,
but
go to Twitter.
Twitter is your best bet. I do plead for this every once in a while, but I will do it again. Please leave us reviews. We haven't had any in a very long time, and I don't think that's helping us be visible. So do that. We also have like a YouTube if you want to leave comments there. If that's like an easier way for you guys to like chat with us, and you can do that. We don't ever use it, but it comes right to my phone if you leave a comment. So you can do that if you feel like it. But yeah, that is everything I have. So do you have anything you want to say before I close it out?
No. Thank you to Jake Adathis Music for our intro and outro music.
And we will be back next week with Everyone Says I Love You.
Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.